Hey everybody, welcome to this week's episode. This week we're going to be going through a bunch of different stuff. I'm friggin' tired, so my brain's all over the place. Amongst that, we're going to be going through rebuilding the engine for this little thing. Not really rebuilding, just putting some new gaskets on and checking that the piston wasn't screwed. And the painting, because I know I keep getting asked how to get the nice gloss finish on the painting. First up, I got a couple new toys that arrived this week. So this is a new flasher unit from eBay. Thank you for the $2 that cost. I got two of these headlights, one of which is going to go on the Noisy Cricket, as my wife dubbed it, for $4 for the pair. Brilliant. First up, one of the things that I needed to do to check why the performance on this little thing was bad. I didn't expect it to be great anyway. It's a 30-year-old 50cc scooter, but it was worse than it should have been. What I did is pulled back the engine, as you can see here, pulled the head off and had a check of it. I think that there was a bit of leakage there, so it needs new gaskets, and the piston and rings were actually in surprisingly good condition. So what we did is put it back together. Now, if you're doing this, I would advise you get new gaskets for whatever bike you're doing it on. However, if you're working on something like this and those are a little bit hard to come by, what I would recommend, if you want to do the cheap and dirty version, do not use this for a head gasket, but go to somewhere like Super Cheap Auto and buy a small tube of Ultra Copper. It's a liquid gasket maker. You basically put a fine bead around the edge of the engine, as you can see here. Around the edge, you push those bits together, you tighten it up with your hand, wait about an hour, then you tighten all your bolts up to torque strength, and that will become a pretty damn good gasket. We put it all back together, and she started up great. And then in the mail, our new little auto choke unit, putting that in made it run like garbage. In fact, it made it not run at all. So, really happy about that. Let's get into the interesting part, which is the painting. So, here is the shield. This was in pretty bad condition. And what I wanted to do is get a bit of a matte finish on this. Now, getting a matte finish on anything you're going to paint is a pain in the ass, because any of you that have ever painted something with matte spray paint knows that it will basically blow away in the breeze. So not ideal for anything that you'd use on a vehicle. Gloss is much better because the enamel just sticks better to the surface. So what I did here was give it a really rough sandblast and basically spray the gloss over in the way I'm about to tell you. And I got a pretty good finish. So what we've done is put on one coat, you put on one really fine coat, just to let the enamel flash to it. Now, depending on the paint that you're using, you may have to wait 10 minutes, you may have to just wait 30 seconds before you put the next mist coat on. After that, wait about an hour, or whatever it says on the can, and put another fine mist coat on. Repeat, repeat. So you want to do about 3 or 4 coats like this, allowing them to set and dry between each coat. You just paint it all in one go and just slosh it on there. You'll get drip marks, it'll look terrible, and it won't stay on the bike very well at all. So we're not going to do gloss on this bit, because it's got the finish here, it is finished, and it looks really good. So for the rear panels, this is where we want a slightly better finish. So what you want to do here is the same process, except I've gone to a lot of, I'm not going to say care, but I spent a lot of time preparing the surface underneath. So you want to sand it with a rough sandpaper to get everything off, then gradually smoother and smoother. So I don't know, 600 grit, 800 grit, 1000, 1200 if you want to do it that gradual. If you don't prepare the surface well, it'll look like crap. Anyone that tells you you can paint over a scratch or a dent or something like that to cover it up, no. So here it is after the first coat and after the second and third coats here. So it looks really, really good. We're actually getting a good finish from that. Now, I haven't put the clear coat on yet, but if you want to get an automotive finish, what you do is put on a couple coats of clear coat, let that completely set, get some very fine grit sandpaper, 1600 or something, and very lightly sand over that until you get a very smooth finish. Dust that off, get some car polish, cut and polish, put it on a cloth, and give it a polish. You'll end up with something that looks absolutely brilliant. You should get a nice smooth finish. You won't get that kind of orange peel effect, and it'll look great. As it stands, it's already looking good, and all put back together, here's what we have so far. So it's looking great. It's not riding very well, but it's looking great. So the next step's going to be getting it working. 2 other projects that got started off this week as well, sitting in the garage there. One is an old busted V-Moto scooter. If you're unaware of that brand, I'm not surprised. They source cheap Chinese scooters and rebrand them. It's not the highest quality. The panel and the construction isn't that great. However, we're going to try and get it working anyway because it was free. I've got it running. There's a few things that need to be corrected. The other one is this. So this is an old C90 Cub Honda. And what I've done is removed the engine that wasn't working. And I've dropped in a tiny little fully automatic CVT transmission. So no gears, no kickstart, nothing like that. Very, very basic for someone to use. This is something that looks a lot like a Cub 50 and essentially is. However, it's by all legal definitions a moped. It cannot go over 50 k's an hour. So it's not super fast, but for getting around suburbs, pretty good. Getting around a uni or something, like, be great. It's moped compliant, which means you don't need a motorcycle license to ride this bike. But the idea is if you're a uni student, if you're a student, you can't afford a motorcycle license, which most people can't because they're very, very expensive. This is perfect for getting around a suburb or to uni or something like that. And it looks pretty cool and a bit cooler than a scooter. So all that on upcoming videos. So for now, time for me to get back and try and get that little noisy cricket actually working. So till next week, everyone. Bye.